I first wrote this story more than 30 years ago for my children, Melinda and Brandon. They're grown now with families of their own, but I still remember sharing it with them when they were children. Now in my 60s, I've brought it back to life, polished, refreshed, and filled with the love that has surrounded me ever since. I dedicate this book to my family, whose encouragement has never wavered, and who have always believed in me, even when my ideas seemed a bit outrageous. You've given me the courage to dream big and to keep creating from the heart. Thank you, all of you, for being my inspiration. With love and gratitude, Kathy Settle. It was a bright spring morning and everything looked fresh and new. Under a big oak tree, a little leprechaun was taking a nap. The leprechaun yawned and stretched his arms high. "Oh my," he said with a smile. "I must have slept a long time. The sun is already high in the sky." He brushed off his coat and looked around. What should I do with the rest of my day? He wondered out loud. The leprechaun began to feel sad. It had been a long, chilly winter. His best friend had grown tired of the cold and moved away to someplace sunny and warm. Now the leprechaun was all alone. He decided that a nice walk in the woods was just what he needed to feel better. The leprechaun walked through the woods on a dirt path that wound between tall trees. "Ah, this is wonderful," he thought as he strolled through the forest. Still, he sighed, it would be even better if I had someone to share it with. After a while, the path grew smaller and smaller until it was almost hidden by thick, leafy bushes and soft, feathery ferns. He saw plants he had never seen before, but he continued on. Suddenly, just ahead, the leprechaun spotted a bright light shining through the shady forest. It sparkled and glowed, lighting up the leaves all around. His eyes grew wide with curiosity. What could that be, he wondered. Without even thinking, his little feet began to move faster and faster toward the mysterious light. As the leprechaun got closer, he saw the trees opening up like a doorway. Beyond them was a bright sunny meadow filled with white daisies dancing in the breeze. Right in the middle of the meadow sat a young lady on a big grey rock. She was the most beautiful person the leprechaun had ever seen. Feeling both shy and curious, he straightened his hat, brushed off his coat, and walked up to her with a friendly smile. "Hello, my lady," he said. The young lady smiled kindly. "Hello to you too," she replied. The leprechaun tipped his hat. "Well now," he said with a grin, "by the luck of the leprechauns, I've met the loveliest lady on such a fine day." The young lady giggled. "It must be my lucky day then. Isn't it true that leprechauns bring good luck?" "It's very true, my lady," said the leprechaun with a twinkle in his eye, "and I'll be sure to bring you plenty of it." And just like that, the leprechaun thought a wish had been made. He felt a spark of excitement in his heart. Maybe this was his chance to forget about feeling lonely. If he could make this kind lady happy, bring her a bit of luck and joy, then maybe he would feel happy again too. The idea made him smile from ear to ear. The leprechaun tapped his chin, thinking hard. What can I give the lady to make her happy, he wondered. Then, with a proud little grin, he rubbed his hands together. Suddenly, a big bright bag of gold coins appeared in his hands. "Oh, she'll be so happy with this," he said, his eyes sparkling with joy. The leprechaun stood a little taller, feeling quite pleased with himself indeed. The leprechaun looked at the lady, waiting for her to smile. Surely she would be delighted, but instead she gently shook her head. "Thank you," she said, in a calm, soft voice, "but I don't need gold or treasure. All I need is the beauty of the earth around me and a happy heart." The leprechaun blinked in surprise. He heard her words, but they didn't make sense. How could anyone not want gold? Still, he was more determined than ever to find something that would make her happy. Jewels, the leprechaun thought excitedly. Shiny jewels of every colour, That will make her happy. He clapped his hands together, and just like that, a sparkling treasure chest appeared in his hands. Inside were shimmering jewels in every colour of the rainbow, reds, blues, greens and golds that glittered like stars. The leprechaun lifted the chest proudly and held it out to the young lady. "Surely you'll like these, my lady," he said with a hopeful smile. But once again the leprechaun had failed. This time the young lady's lovely face looked a little sad and just a tiny bit annoyed. "Did you not listen?" she asked gently but firmly. "All these treasures cannot compare to the daisies blooming in the meadow or the sweet songs of the birds above us." She opened her arms wide, turning slowly so the leprechaun could see. "Look around," she said softly. "Isn't it already beautiful?" The leprechaun followed her gaze. The sunlight danced on the flowers, and the air was filled with music from the birds. Now the leprechaun was starting to feel frustrated. "If treasures and jewels don't make her happy," he thought, "then I'll just have to try even harder." Never before had he met anyone who did not want his gifts. Most people were thrilled to see even one shiny coin, but this young lady was different, very different. She was a puzzle, a mystery, the leprechaun admitted with a sigh, quite a challenge. The leprechaun sat down on the soft grass beside her and thought, and thought, and thought some more. He looked out over the meadow, trying to understand what she meant. It really was a beautiful place. The green grass, the white daisies, and the golden sunlight dancing across it all. "Yes, it's lovely," he whispered, "but how can flowers and sunshine be enough?" He glanced up at the young lady and noticed she was wearing a simple blue dress. It wasn't fancy at all, but it suited her perfectly. Then an idea popped into his head. "Aha! A dress. That is what she needs." He closed his eyes and imagined the most wonderful gown anyone had ever seen. Soft and pale blue, like a spring sky, with tiny diamonds sparkling around the neck and shining sapphires at the waist. When he opened his eyes, there it was in his hands. The young lady gasped in surprise. "Oh, what a lovely gown!" she exclaimed. The leprechaun beamed with pride. At last, he thought, "I've made her happy." But then the young lady smiled gently and said, "It's beautiful, but surely you don't think it could compare to the bluest sky on a sunny day, or the tiny dewdrops twinkling on the daisies around us?" Once again the leprechaun's smile slowly faded. His heart sank like a stone. It seemed there was nothing he could give her, nothing she didn't already have. The young lady saw the sadness in his eyes and gently reached out her hand. "No riches or jewels last forever, dear little man," she said softly. "Only love and kindness stay in our hearts. The gift of your friendship is all I want." The leprechaun blinked in surprise. "Friendship," he whispered. Then his face lit up. "Yes, friendship, that's what I was looking for all along." A warm, happy feeling filled his chest. He climbed up onto the rock beside her, and together they sat quietly, watching the daisies sway and the sunlight sparkle. And there in the middle of the meadow, the leprechaun discovered what it truly meant to be happy. The end.